Boys and Ghouls. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is Mike Stephenson.
Hi, everybody.
As we're phoning from this North Pole area that's really freezing up here.
It's a bit cold tonight. I think we're going single figures here tonight, folks.
Yes. Yes, so we're in a cold climate at the moment.
Yes, beautiful Queensland.
Yes.
Sunny some days, cold the next.
Sundays. Come, it's frozen season.
So
come and get your icicles.
Are you going to tell the people what we're doing?
Yes. So today we're reviewing Psycho 3. That was made in 1986 and directed by, drumroll please, Anthony Perkins.
Yay! Was this his first one?
Yes, it says it's his first director debut.
Well, there you go.
So this is the first time, and at first, Anthony tried to persuade Richie, the director from the Psycho 2, to come on board, but he declined, sadly.
Yeah. Oh,
so
what a shame.
It was left up to Anthony to fill the director role.
Well, actually, from all accounts, Anthony Perkins did a damn fine job of directing.
Yeah, I understand that.
The critics said so.
Yeah, the cast and crew were quite. They quite enjoyed working with him.
And he didn't kill anybody.
No. But
no cast or crew were killed during the making of Psycho 3.
Yeah, there was a little bit of little complications with the director of photography, but I won't get into that.
We'll talk about it later, maybe.
Well, I'll say it now before I get into this.
There's a bit of a spoiler there.
Well, it's not a spoiler. It's just that the director of photography named Bruce.
Sir Ted. You got. Stop waving a piece of paper in front of me. Surtees, I think.
Yeah, Bruce Surtees once quizzed Anthony Perkins on about his blocking of an upcoming shot, figuring the star would have been unprepared as this was his first directing job. So Bruce surprised Perkins. But by the time Bruce was surprised when he found out that all the scenes looked spot on by the time it was all finally cut.
So Perkins knew what he wanted, but he played the role twice before.
Yeah, so Perkins, he kind of knew his lenses and cameras. I think it was all those times he's been on, in front of the camera a lot. So he must have.
We learned a bit.
He must have learned a little bit here and there.
And
so he was able to
He's not stupid.
Yeah. And so Bruce stopped pestering Perkins and continued working on the film project.
Yay!
Yes, and so let's continue on. Who stars in this movie, Pop?
Well, firstly, I was going to say Anthony Perkins, obviously, Norman Bates. This is the third time he has actually played the role, and I don't think anyone could play it better. Now he's his third time around. Now, the leading female is Diana Scarwid, I think it's called, and she plays a Maureen Coyle, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a few moments. Now, Jeff Fahey plays Dwayne Duke. What a wonderful name that is.
Yeah.
Now, Dwayne, some of you might recall him. He was in the Lawnmower Man movie. He played the Lawnmower Man. Stephen King movie, some years back? Can't remember when it was made.
Yeah, well, it was not.
Would have been the same period, similar period.
It's the same period, yes, most likely. But I won't go into that one just yet. Anyway,
but Jeff Fahey, he's not too bad in this role. He's quite good.
Yeah.
Now, here's something. There's a lady called Roberta Maxwell plays Tracy Venables. Now, she plays a newspaper reporter lady who's hassling Norman for a story about people being let out of nut houses a bit too early.
Yeah, unlike some final girls whom I find really great, she's the least likely person I don't really appreciate in this movie.
No, she wasn't going to be no final girl.
Yeah,
actually, there's no final girls in these shows.
Well, in this one, she's not a really nice person.
See,
All the time I'm throughout this movie, I kept rooting for Norman not to get caught.
Yeah, because he's it's not his fault. He's been driven crazy by those around him. So anyway, lastly but not leastly, there's a guy called Hugh Gillen. He plays Sheriff John Hurt. Now he was in the previous movie, Psycho 2. He played the same role. So a nice touch of continuity there. And
Was there another person in this movie that was
Yeah, I
in
haven't
the second
got his
movie?
name there, but the guy who owns a cafe,
Yeah.
Mr. Statler, I haven't got his name written down here. He was in Psycho 2, he's also in Psycho 3. So there you go. Well, there you go, folks. See, see they can all make a good living and put food on the table and send the kids to school and everything and
Or whatever.
whatever. Yeah. Okay. Now a quick overview before Sarah starts.
Yes.
This film takes place about 1 month after the end of Psycho 2. Now, at the end of Psycho 2, Mrs. Spool, Norman's supposed real mother, got killed by Norman, and she's taken the place of his old mother. Yes, yeah, well, why not? Anyway, so they're looking for her. It's a fresh police case in the area, and everyone's going, I wonder what happened to her. Well, we know what happened to her, don't we, folks?
Yes, we do.
Anyway, Norman's still running the motel, and everybody thinks Norman's a really nice guy at this point in the movie.
Yeah, it makes everyone feel a bit foolish, including the sheriff, I might add.
Yeah, in the end.
In the end.
But the main part is, as Sarah will tell you, it's too late story in a minute, a couple of people come to stay at the motel long term, and that forms an integral part of the storyline, doesn't it, Sarah?
Exactly so.
Yeah, and a bit of love interest for poor old Norman.
Yeah, a new one.
Yeah,
I might
okay.
add.
Now, take it away, Sarah.
Yeah, before I begin in this, to give you the plot, I'd like to say that Anthony originally suggested that the film be shot in black and white as a homage to dear old
Alfred.
Alfred
Isn't that
Hitchcock.
lovely?
But Universal Pictures didn't really gloss over this idea really well.
There's nothing wrong with black and white if you
Well,
do it
it
well,
would
even
be-
today, folks.
It wouldn't be funny if 1 minute it was black and white, next minute it was color, and then it was back to black and white. It's a little confusing that way when you think
different
about
style
it.
of photography, though. You work more dark and light and that sort of thing, and
It
shadow
will confuse
and stuff.
viewers. They'll think, what's going on here? Why?
Yeah, I know that, but if they kept it black and white all the way through, so Psycho 2 and Psycho 3, I think it would have been better.
Yes.
Because he can still work on that film noir sort of feel that the first movie had. But anyway, irrespective.
Yes, irrespective.
Yeah. Go
So
on.
the story begins with at a nunnery of sorts, and this nun named, what's her name again? Maureen.
Maureen Coyle.
Maureen Coyle is who's what do they call that nun before they become nun?
Oh, I think the neophytes or something, or whatever. She's a trainee nun.
She's a training nun, so she's having her own personal issues with temptations and dealing with the matters of the flesh and all that stuff. And somehow this got her into big trouble, and she resigned from being a nun.
Well, she's going to commit suicide at the nunnery, and an accident happened, and a nun died while trying to stop her from killing herself.
Yeah, so in other words, she resigns from being a nun, or they just threw her out.
Well, she's asked to leave, yeah.
Yes, so...
You're
and
going to burn in hell, I think one of the nuns said.
yeah, rather nastily. So she leaves.
Very compassionate lady. Yeah.
So she wanders the I don't know if Arizona desert for a while, I think,
Whatever, yeah.
or wherever around Texas area.
Well, no, where's he supposed to be? Supposed to be California?
Yes.
California?
Fairville. Or,
Yeah, in California, because he didn't the one who went from New Jersey, not New Jersey, Phoenix, Arizona to California.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it must be somewhere in California.
yeah. So she's wandering, wander throughout the credits.
Wonder.
And there's a new set of music for this one too. I won't get into that, but it's really different.
I like the Teddy Bear's Picnic.
Funny.
That wasn't it. Okay.
No. But and then so Maureen kind of not really runs into, but she meets Duke, the
other person.
the
who's
other
gonna be in the movie.
the guy.
A quick retro. Duke is going from point A to point B, coming towards Fairvale in a crappy old car, and he picks up Maureen as a hitchhiker, who obviously doesn't have a car, being a thrown out nun.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mike, last night we were you were talking about why in Hollywood they always use in these movies why they often use rundown cars.
Yeah, well, just about every time you see some young guy or a person who's not really up on the dollars is driving a car which should have been driven to the wreckers, not on the road. I don't think this must be a Hollywood thing. So let's give him a really doggy car, make him look like he's really, really poor. Now, I've been really, really poor, and I've had a halfway decent car, an old one, but it didn't go clatter, 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 didn't sound like it was getting ready to die on the road. Yes. And he's going from state to state looking for work. I don't think so.
Yes, so anyway, as we go, he invites her into his car. She's a little still nervous from the shock from killing or from the accidental death of the nun.
One would.
And she feels like she's being plagued by spiritual God and other stuff.
Well, see, I think it's more of a guilt trip when she's still spiritually confused and everything else.
Yeah.
And going through a lot of that sort of stuff.
Pent-up issues of her own.
Oh, a lot of crap, yeah.
Yeah, so they drive along for a bit. It starts raining in Arizona, like last time in the first movie.
I don't think it rains as much, but actually it is likened to the first movie because Marion Crane was driving down the road and it started raining. Yeah. And this one here, and she pulled over on the side of the road. But it wasn't raining at the time she pulled over, was it?
Sure.
No, it's tired.
Yeah.
But this one here, they pulled over because it was raining, so there's a bit of pulling over beside the road.
Yeah.
Let's have a sleep,
Yeah.
But Dwayne didn't want to sleep. He wanted to play at the nun.
Well, let's call him Duke because Duke he always wants.
Oh, okay.
He's the
Duke
nickname
wanted to play at the nun instead of getting to sleep.
Yeah. So Duke tries to manhandle her, and she kind of walks out and.
Well, he throws her out of the car.
Yes, and he drives off, leaving her wet and probably going to get a little bit of a flu.
Chivalry is not dead, folks.
Yes.
Hey.
So we cut and fade in on Norman, who's still at the motel. The place is still quiet. There's a help wanted.
Quiet as a grave.
Yes. There's a help wanted sign at the motel,
help
hinting.
Wanted.
Yes. And Norman's still stuffing birds like he always does.
That sounds a bit rude, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, here and there.
I know, I could go on to something like that a bit later on, but not on air.
Yeah, and there's some hint bits of the second movie in this movie, like the Belly of the Beast book that Mary had in the first Psycho movie was there lying on the ground.
The Bell and the Beast, yeah.
Yes.
That was lying. Yeah, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, and there are a few. If you look at the marks on the basement window that was with the boy who was killed in the basement in the second movie, those are still there. So there's a lot of hints, continuation from the original movie. And as we watch Norman sewing up a new bird to add to his collection, he starts flashing back to his recent
escapades.
Yeah, exactly. I'll call it that way. He's remembering how he's sewing up his mum in the.
Well, his new mum.
Yes.
His new mum.
And he flashes back to her, being killed in the second movie.
Spade in hand, flat on the floor. Yeah.
So, but then we see a bird inside the bag where he's keeping these birds. He kind of poisoned them. I don't know how.
He drugs them with something or other, or something.
Yes.
And one of the birds wakes up. And that was interesting. I wonder if that symbolises something.
I think it symbolises when the bird wakes up. He sees it. He's a little happy, and Norman takes it out to the outside and. He softly pats the bird, and then he releases the bird.
It gives a second chance.
Yeah, I think it symbolises that maybe Norman is not all bad as we think. Like he's willing to let go of something without killing it.
Yes, he's a gentle soul. Not.
Yeah, but I think that's what it symbolises in this movie. But I also think it symbolises that Norman is a free caged bird.
Well, he's free. He wants to be free. Maybe. I think isn't that right at the end of the movie he says, "But I'm finally free." So that might be something to it. He wants to be free.
Yeah, I think he does.
Yeah.
Anyway, we then hear a horn honking.
Honk honk.
And we see Duke in the parking lot near the motel, and he wants a job
could
to
sort
fix
of
his
signed
brakes and probably get some extra money to
Travelling
go
money,
off
yeah.
to Hollywood.
So spend a couple of weeks there. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Norman allows him to become his sort of assistant manager or whatever.
Yeah, take care of the shop, the office there, and he can just hang around doing.
Yeah.
Norman can do the night shift. He's very good at nights.
Yes. So anyway, he heads into town to the cafe that
Diner,
he used to
whatever.
work in, and he encounters that the sheriff and the chef and the journalistic lady that we talked about.
Yes.
And as I said before, she's really a royal pain to everyone.
She's a royal pain in the bottom, in the rear end, folks. How's that?
Yes.
Without saying the A word.
Yeah, so she's not really a friend to anyone. She doesn't want friends. She seems to be bent on getting information from Norman, or if she can't.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another news hound who doesn't deserve this, the air they're breathing.
Yeah, and when she's discussing Lila Crane and her sister Marion Crane, he then spots, some spots an unexpected nun, Maureen, stepping out of a truck.
Yeah, the news lady is talking to Norman,
Yeah.
and he sees this blonde get out of this truck, and with short blonde hair, and it reminds him of Marion Crane in the first movie.
Yeah, and
Wait
it's
a
not
minute,
only
wait,
that.
Wait a moment. She brings in a suitcase, and the initials are MC.
MC.
And you go, whoa, that's not bad, hey? Is that?
Yeah, it's an interesting twist, and he thinks, oh my gosh, she's
back.
Yeah, and then he has a flashback to the final moments of Marion Crane being killed.
In the shower,
and,
in the first movie.
Yeah, and we get the still shot of her lying dead, and it looks dead on, looks like
very
her
similar, not
a little
dead
bit.
on, but they got similar. Yeah.
Similar in that scene. Any other
They're both
scene, nah.
blonde women about the same age. Okay,
Yeah.
short blonde hair. So yeah.
And
Move on.
And Norman is a little freaked out by the resemblance.
He goes home and tells mother all about it too.
Yeah, he says that. Anyway, so Marion, what's her name again? I keep forgetting.
Maureen.
Maureen. I keep forgetting her name.
Maureen
Yeah.
Coyle.
I should remember her.
Think of mosquito coil. No.
Anyway, Maureen comes to the hotel. She's exhausted and needs rest. And when she's a bit shocked when she sees Duke at the front desk.
And he said no, all forgive, no, yeah, sorry about that, yeah, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And he rented a room at a highly exorbitant rate.
Yes.
He gave a single room at a double tariff. That's a bit rude.
Yeah, it is. But then again, he's not one to tolerate.
He's a
that
naughty
sort of
guy.
stuff.
He deserves what he gets later in the movie.
Yeah, I won't tell you what yet.
You'll find out, folks.
Yes. And anyway, Norma's a little bit shocked when he finds out that Duke has given her the same room that Marion Crane offers.
Number one.
Yes. So late at night, when Duke's off to do his drinking, whatever, or not,
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
He went into town, didn't he?
Yeah,
Had
and
a
he
couple
meets
drinks.
the journalist, and she tells him a little bit about what Norman
needs
is.
to be,
Yeah, and meanwhile, Maureen is just getting down to having a bit of soak.
She's dropping gear off like Marion Crane did in the first
Incidentally,
movie.
I found something interesting about that scene when I was looking up some interesting facts.
She had a rubber duck in the bath?
No, I mean, Diana, the girl who's playing Maureen in this, she didn't do the nudity scene. It turned out that they got a stunt performer to do it for her.
I must admit, it looked really good to me.
Yes, she may have been a little shocked about being naked or didn't want.
Well, she might have been, yeah. But
so they get a stand-in to do her bare bottom scene.
Yeah, and well, you didn't see her face in those shots, so yeah, anyone with halfway decent body.
Yeah. And if
hers,
it's the same build and same hair manufacturer,
similar hair, yeah, and stuff, yeah.
and
worked.
It doesn't look at your face.
I didn't even notice that. No.
Yeah, well, we'll leave it at that. So anyway, Norman is quakering in his body for watching her.
Yeah, and then mother starts to take over.
Yeah, and of course.
He has a bit of a perv. Then mother said, "You dirty little scumbag."
Another thing I should mention in this scene is that Anthony Perkins originally wanted to use. Let me see. Oh wait, well, not originally. I mean, sorry, I got the wrong fault details.
Had little notes here. Yeah.
Okay, it was Anthony Perkins' idea to use the unique scene what's that word?
Oh, crikey, your handwriting's as bad as mine. The scene transition.
Yeah, transition. In this scene where the
Morphing
light
from one scene to the next.
Yeah, the light underneath the door that is actually a knife in one scene. And
Yes, yeah.
And the next scene where Norman is leaving the hospital, which is much comes later on after he saves Maureen from getting killed in the bath, and so he leaves the hospital in one scene and then closes the door and finds himself in his mother's room. Sort of an awesome bit of filming there. Yeah, when you think about it.
So scene jumping and stuff, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
And morphing
which
from
is a
one
lot
bit
of
to the
people
next.
have been using a lot lately in some movies and some TV shows.
If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But okay.
Yes.
He's a director. He made it work.
Yeah. So anyway, so he comes into his mother dressed as a mother, and he sees Maureen in the bath, and her wrists are cut.
Yes, he's a razor blade to cut her wrists.
I don't know where people get those razor blades.
You buy them at the chemist. So he might have shaved the legs on a regular basis. Even nuns probably shave the legs.
I always shaved my legs with a razor, not
They didn't have those type of lady sort of shavers. Back then, they used those not quite so safety razors they used to use years ago.
Yeah. So anyway, so she sees Norman there, and her vision is half blurry and half mixture.
She's passing out, and she sees a blur, doesn't she?
Yeah, she starts seeing Norman, or not really Norman. We see a silhouette, and she sees it imaginatively as the Virgin Mary of.
And the knife that's in his hand
is a silver crucifix.
Looks like a silver crucifix to her.
Yeah, so it was really an interesting scene.
And this shocks the hell out of it. Norman saying, "I'm going to kill you," or "Mel's going to kill you," but you're already killing yourself. And I think it shocks Norman out of that sort of.
So it kind of shocked him out of his trance or something like that.
He put Mother back in the box for a few minutes. Yeah.
Yes, and so we then see much later on that they're in the hospital, and Maureen is just woken up, and she meets the psychiatrist, who's actually a priest, who
he was here.
Who asked her, "Do you know who saved you?" All that stuff, and she kept saying the Virgin Mary.
Well, she might have helped a bit, but
yeah.
Norman sitting outside the room, and
and the
he's
sheriff
a hero.
and the sheriff is there, and he says that Norman came in there to bring in extra towels and stuff,
and
found her there. So I guess.
What a good man he is.
Yes, so he kind of saved himself from getting into another scrape.
He should have been a Boy Scout, hey.
So anyway, he comes to Maureen and they talk a bit, and Howie says he'll offer her a room
for free.
Again.
Until she gets herself together. Yeah.
Yes, and she was happy that he's doing some nice, kind stuff. Yeah. And he remarks that how much she resembles
someone he knew years ago.
So it's a nice thing that he's starting to reconnect with her.
He starts seeing a soft side of Norman, saying, is he really cured? Is he going to change in this movie?
Yeah, so the next scene we see him arguing with his mother, yelling at her, saying, I'm glad that she's not dead, all that stuff. His Maureen is.
He was sticking up for her. He was. He did good, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He told Mother to no. And that was quite surprising.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so in the next scene, we see Duke bring in a lady love named Red, I think her name is.
Well, it was a pickup in the bar, was his lady love.
Yeah. Well, not really a lady love. She's more of a pickup.
She's a pickup like a bar. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And they're having good times.
Yeah, so she gets some ice before heading off to Duke, and Norman helps her, and she offers him,
why don't you come down and join us? Have a threesome. Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah. Anyway, she says maybe see you later, and Norman says maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But
he
did see you later, didn't he? Really, when you think about it.
Anyway, in the next scene, we see Duke and her doing the dirty deed.
Or doing whatever, right.
And so as they're doing it, I think in this scene, Anthony Perkins well, actually, the actor Duke, who was playing him, he didn't want to be completely stripped down to his nudity, even though in the scene he does look like he's nude.
He looks like he's nude.
So
yeah, but he's not.
so Anthony suggested we should put some lights in front of your manhood
Yeah,
to avoid
yeah.
looking at you,
Yeah.
you fully.
That's good. That's what creative camera work. I mean, you don't need to see everything all the time. There's
Yeah.
a thing called imagination, folks,
Yeah.
and we know men have a penis. Do you actually have to see one on screen? We know females have a vagina, pardon the language. Now, do you have to see a vagina in every shot? Not necessarily. So, yeah, a good camera guy can work around this.
Yes. Although some people can get away from it back then. Although these days they change their rules
Sometimes
here
less
and
is
there.
more. You don't need to show everything.
Yeah, sometimes they break the rules. Sometimes they
Oh,
don't.
yeah,
They
but it's got to
keep
be
it
relevant to the
concealed.
movie. You go 50 Shades of Grey, I think you see a lot of it, you know.
Ugh.
But Julie's seen, I haven't seen Julie's had it, but
Yeah, my sister has.
it's just,
probably.
yeah, but I mean, if it's relevant to the movie, yeah, throw it in. If it's not relevant,
Yeah.
leave it out.
Yeah. So after Duke and the Red do the dirty deed, he kind of shuts her down, saying that they just had a one night stand sort, and she doesn't take it as likely
yeah.
as
and
he
throws
does.
her out. Yeah.
Yeah, and scene is interesting because in this one, Anthony originally wanted to use a stunt woman for this scene where Duke throws a girl out, but the girl playing her says, let me see. She convinces Anthony to not use a stand-in and let her do the stunt, which is kind of great. I mean, I like it when a person takes the initiative to do the scene.
It does make it look better. I mean, when you go for stunt dolls, you got to position the cameras a bit differently and blah blah blah. And
Yeah,
it
but
does
you gotta love
yeah.
it, people who use that initiative to do the scene even all the way. I mean,
Well, your actors didn't have any stunt doubles. The cat guys beat the snot out of them. Yeah, not a problem.
yeah, I like the initiative in an actor. So anyway, she goes. She gets annoyed. She's told to go to the payphone to phone
For a
a cab or sorts. She had enough money.
Well, yeah, she's
out.
getting ready,
And guess who comes tapping at the booth door? Mummy Dearest comes.
no.
Yes, and she stabs her to death.
She broke the glass. My stab. Oh, did she stab the glass? Broke the
Yeah,
glass,
she
stabbed
broke
her
the
and
glass.
everything?
There was a bit of glass on the ground. Kind of scratched her feet and probably more.
Well, he's scratching off a knife. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, pretty much the next morning we see Norman cleaning the booth and everything.
He's very domesticated, isn't he?
Yeah, and Duke doesn't suspect, or I'm not sure he suspects a thing.
No, actually, he did suspect. Couldn't he go to the till? And remember, he gave the girl $5 to get a taxi.
Yes, he does.
And then he sees that $5 note in the till.
Yeah, and it's got a folded corner, which is
Or a torn corner, or folded corner, or something. Yeah, you know, that's the money I gave the girl. He didn't think anything more about it at the time, did he?
Yeah, that's and much later on, he shows the same $50
$5.
bill to the reporter, and she says that well,
That doesn't prove anything.
that doesn't prove anything.
She could have got some change or something. Or, yeah.
Yeah, so she's anyway. So Norman soon returns back to the hotel with with Maureen, and she's pretty much all healed up, and all the her stuff that's in her cabin is all clean because while she was on the walking, most of her clothing was wet from
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
from the rain earlier in the movie.
And Norman got them all cleaned and dried for her and everything.
Yes.
See, he's showing he's a nice, wonderful human being.
Yes, and Norman even asked her out.
He does.
Yes, in a nice way.
And took her out took her out to dinner that night, didn't he?
Yeah.
I like your pink dress. That looks very nice, he said. And then they went out and had a nice meal together.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yes.
young love, isn't it, grand
yeah.
folks?
Yeah. So, while all this is happening, Norman has a very big wide selection of guests coming to the
like
hotel.
a football game between two towns or something.
Yeah,
and,
they're celebrating or something.
Well, they come there to watch the game and party on for a day or two. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're there, and it probably has a lot of money coming in here and there.
Yeah. Wasn't it full? It was pretty full, or a few
Yeah,
rooms.
it was a few rooms.
Yeah. So, good money. Yeah.
Yeah, so Duke is handling it while Norman's out on his date. And when they came back, of course, Norman and Marie tried to get it on in his
Maureen
her room.
tries to. I wouldn't say seduce Norman, but she sort of
They're both into it.
They both feel there's something moving and stirring inside their relationship. Not nasty, horrible stuff, but that Norman hasn't had a female in his life for many years, maybe ever, and she might have had a boyfriend 2 inches of high school, but she's been a nun, trying to be a nun for so many years, and all of a sudden, they just pent up sexual tension starts to come out.
Yeah, so while this is happening, Duke is looking up at the window, and I think he has some evil tensions going on there. But I won't tell you just yet what happens.
Yeah, I think he's twigged the fact that Mother's living there.
Yes. Or Emma Spool is living there.
Well, Mother, his new mother, his stepmother maybe.
Yes, so anyway, while Norman is doing the hanging out with Maureen, yes, he then gets called away to the to his mother's place.
Well, he gets second. I think he gets nervous and goes back to the house. Yeah.
Yeah, and she goes. Her mother does eventually kill someone, but he doesn't kill Maureen right away. It turns out to be one of the party guests there that gets killed.
Yeah, Mother comes back to Norman, obviously. Comes down there and kills a party guest who happens to be using the toilet in the office because he couldn't get a free toilet in one of the rooms.
It's a bit strange, don't you think? I mean, that she doesn't bother. I don't know how many rooms they booked, but she could have used any one of them.
But there could have been people having dumps in it and having a whiz instead of one of them. Or throwing up. So she found the office door open, went there, and then went to use a toilet in there.
Yes.
Why not?
Yes. So anyway, she goes in there, she gets killed, and Norman, like the obedient son, cleans up and takes the body out back to dump in the ice box.
Yeah, you got a brand new second-hand ice box. Yeah, to make an ice machine. Sorry, yeah, and he shoves it in there and comes up with ice to hide her. What a great place! A motel full of people who are going to get ice, and he puts it into the ice machine.
Ugh, gross.
I wouldn't have that would not have been my first place.
Yeah, but then again, by the time everyone was already getting ready to leave, by the sound of it, by the cars that were screeching across the highway when he was
taking off the hurry,
and Norman was just dragging the remains of the body, and there was one scene where one couple runs past them, and they assume that Norman and her were getting it on.
Kissing a cuddle.
But they never thought anything of it.
Well, exactly right.
Yeah, so Norman dumps the body and tells Maureen that he doesn't feel up to hanging out tonight, so he
wasn't feeling very well.
Yeah, he kind of cut himself in too.
Yeah, trying to stop him hurting her or anybody else that night.
Yeah, it seems that Norman is still, he still feels like he knows already that he did kill in the past, but he's still fixated that his mother's doing the killings.
Well.
Yeah.
We never know. Could be mother. Could be.
Yeah. So anyway, the next morning, the sheriff comes around, tells him, "Guess what? Someone is missing from the group."
And this time, Norman isn't quite so obliging. He says, "You always pick on me when something goes wrong around here." Yada.
And he tells them to get lost, and they do have a search warrant, meaning they have every right to be there.
He got a warrant. Doing it legally.
Yes, doing it by the book.
Yeah, but he did right at the point. Every time something goes wrong there, they always look at him as the first suspect, and every time they find out he hasn't done anything wrong, especially in movie 2. They blame somebody else.
Even Maureen says that he couldn't have killed because she was with him.
Yeah, she covered up for him, saying that he was with me till 3 o'clock in the morning or something or other. And actually in Psycho 2, Mary,
Yeah.
Loomis, she gave him an alibi
Yeah,
for a
true.
murder too. Interesting that, hey?
Yeah, both women
We-
kind of backed up Norman.
Because they thought he was a nice guy.
Yeah, so anyway, Maureen finally gets the half the story of what Norman is about from from the reporter, no less. And while this is happening, Norman discovers his mother's body, or Miss Spool's body, is disappeared.
She went for a little walk, folks.
I won't tell you who just yet.
She went to visit somebody.
That's right. So anyway, so the sheriff realized that there was no evidence, and even the journalist is saying, "Why didn't you arrest him?" Yada yada yada. She's just like reminds me a lot of that Lila Crane or Loomis.
Whatever.
She's just always going blabbering about, why don't you drain the swamps, do this stuff, do
blah,
this.
blah, blah, blah.
That's
All
where he
the
dumps
above,
all the other dead bodies, all that stuff.
She's like she didn't get dumped in the swamp.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Interesting that, hey, folks.
I mean, the idea of dumping her would be a
that would have been a pleasure. Everyone would have gone, yay!
Yeah, a big clap in the audience. Yes. So anyway, the police head off, and Maureen heads off with the reporter to take her to the priest's place to stay in his house for a place for a bit.
It's a safe harbour for her, folks.
Yeah, even though she doesn't feel like she wants to go, but she
wasn't really sure. She was a bit
sure.
nervous because she found out about Norman's history and blah blah blah.
And she was probably just scared as Norman is of his past.
No, but she does talk to the priest there, and he's giving her a bit of counselling, and then she gets a revelation that maybe she was saved by the Virgin Mary when she's in the bathtub, because she has a job to do in helping Norman, bringing some peace to him or some love to him or something or other.
Yeah.
Interesting. So
yeah,
she goes back to the motel.
Yeah, she even says that the figure in the motel, the one we're thinking of that's in the window in Norman's house, is the Virgin Mary too.
Yes, she saw silhouette. Oh, it's a sign.
Yes. So anyway,
it's a sign to keep away.
Yes. So anyway, while this is happening, Norman is trying to find his mum, but he can't find a trace of her. But he soon finds in his bag of lollies note from his mother.
You meet me in room 12, or something, was it?
Yeah, so he heads down there. It's really cloudy by this time.
A bit overcast. It's a bit of a storm, was it?
Yeah, and we head into room 12, which has a lot of weird noises coming out of it.
Room.
And there's a lot of weird noises. Woody the Woodpecker was on
Woody
television.
Woodpecker cartoons for all your younger people. That was a very popular cartoon when I was a child.
Yes. So anyway, he's playing this stuff, and he goes on a bit that he would have gotten. He says that he could have dobbed in Norman any time he wanted to, but he didn't. But because no doubt the journalist would probably get a nice story together and would be given her a job as a fully fledged news person.
So they say in the TV programs, let's make a deal.
Yes. Yeah. So, and he knows that if he dubs him into the sheriff or the police, he would get a pat on the back and said, "Thanks for your help.
What a good little fellow you are."
Yeah, and he doesn't see any money in that, so he says that this motel has a lot of money. Why don't you sell it so I can get a share and I can get away from here and all that.
Yes,
but Norman doesn't see it that way. He doesn't see that he wants to.
Yeah, Norman may be crazy, but not stupid. He says, "You think I'm stupid? I mean, you won't just stop at one, and you might still tell the world about Mother and different things." No. Yeah. So Norman takes care of Duke.
Yeah, he smashes him with the guitar.
Wait a minute. Mother didn't do it this time. Norman did it. Norman was the one fighting with Duke. Yeah, not Mother stabbing him. It's an interesting turnaround, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a different twist. Instead of Martha Dearest, it's Norman
protecting Mother.
Yeah. Anyway, he pretty much is annoyed, and he takes the bodies and Duke's car and takes it to the swamp like per usual.
It wasn't. He put the girl's body.
Yes.
Out of the ice in the boot and put Duke on the back seat wrapped in plastic.
Yeah, that was a big mistake.
Yeah, I used to put Duke in the back, in the boot.
I would have put them both in the boot.
Well, I mean, that would have been uncomfortable for them.
Yeah, there was an interesting scene when he was putting the bodies in the car. There was a scene where he kissed the dead remains of the little girl.
Bit of necrophilia going on here, folks.
That kind of was a bit weird. I think it was even weird for Anthony Perkins too, probably. I'm not sure.
Well, he wasn't really dead.
I know, but it was weird.
Well, he was supposed to make,
I imagine it was probably. I don't know whose idea it was. Maybe it was the screenwriter. I don't know.
Maybe it worked. Yeah, it would work for me.
Yes.
Yeah, it grossed me out.
Or maybe it was never written in the script. He could have just added there for his own bit of flavour to the movie. I don't know. I could be wrong. I mean, a lot of
would that be sexual harassment then if he ad-libbed?
Anyway,
right.
it doesn't matter. I mean, it seems like an interesting idea to ad-lib. I have done it. Most of my actors have done it in the past, and I think it's an awesome.
Take ownership of the role. Make it your own.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I did Mia Morris's Diaries. One of my actors, he came up with the line in our first pilot episode to our heroine girl, and I thought it was a good, way to end the scene, which I thought was great.
Yeah, carry on.
So anyway, Norman drives the car down to the swamp, and just then Duke's body rises and claws at his throat.
Yeah, Duke wasn't totally dead, just unconscious.
Yes. So anyway, Norman struggles with him at one point, and then he soon drives the car directly into the swamp.
And this one goes down pretty fast, not like the other one. Like glug, glug, glug.
Unlike all those times where Norman gets out of the car and he just pushes the car into the water.
This one, Norman's actually in the swamp.
Yes.
You got to get out of it. But
and when he tries to swim away, he comes in contact with the dead remains of the other girl, in the other movie.
Who we actually obviously threw in there at some stage.
Yeah.
Which we didn't see, did we?
No. He screams, and of course he gets out of there, and he's covered in
a bit damp,
swamp water.
And he's running back to the motel, and Maureen's just got back from the priest's place. House. And he's looking for Norman, and she calls out to him, and he ignores her, looks over his shoulder, and keeps going back up the house because he's filthy wet and everything.
Yeah, and anyway, she goes up to the house. She says that she came back, all that stuff, and she wanted to stay with him.
Stay with him, be with him, and she's really pouring her heart out to him. I love you. Or, did she say that? Or just implied it? I can't remember.
I think she was, and she was holding her hands out to him. He was holding her hand.
Yeah, she comes up the stairs towards where Norman's at the top of the stairs near Mother's room. Mm-hmm. Now, visualise this, folks. He comes up the stairs, and they're standing right at the top of the stairs. Not a metre away from it. Not a couple. No, right at the top of the stairs, and they're holding hands.
Yes.
And we look like Norman and Maureen are starting to start to spark,
Yeah.
And
before the spark gets lit, Mother calls Norman.
And Norman turns his head and lets go at the same time, and must nudge her or something or other. And Maureen
tumbles down the stairs and hits a Cupid statue.
Yeah, with an arrow, and it goes right in the back of the skull. What
Ouch.
a way to go!
Ouch! And poor Maureen, she dies without even knowing the absolute truth.
Yeah, poor girl.
And Norman, of course, he screams out to his mother for murdering the love he started.
Yeah, the real love that he could have had in his life.
Yeah. Oh. Anyway, later on, the reporter arrives, and she's alone, and she already knows the full truth about what's she found out Norman's past and all that stuff.
That mummy dearest.
Yeah, and how she fits in, how Emma Spools fits into the story.
Yeah. Now, do you want to go through that? Do you want me to explain it?
I'll explain it, guys.
It's complicated.
So Emma Spool turns out to be not Norman's mum, as it turned out.
Yeah.
It turns out she's his aunt of sorts.
And didn't she kill Norman's dad?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, she did. So, in a jealous rage, because Norma Norman's mum, was dating him, and they married, and
Wasn't
and,
Mrs. Spool
and Mrs. Spool.
going out for him before?
Yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Mrs. Spool
yeah.
got so in a jealous rage, she killed him, and she stole Norman, and claiming that it's her son.
Her son, yeah. So she was mentally deranged, believing Norman was her son, even
Yeah.
though she stole it.
Yes.
Stole him. Yeah.
So we're left to guess. Well, the truth. That's the truth.
His new mother lied to him.
Yes. So anyway, reporter arrives. She goes into the house. She sees what happened to Maureen. She's lying in a sort of
Pool of blood.
no, not a pool of blood. She's in a sort of a nice.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, see, Norman picked her up and put her onto
On the sofa.
a sofa, and had these nice candles.
Yeah, sort of
like a shrine to her.
Like a shrine to her.
I think he really loved her.
Yeah, I think he kind of made a shrine to Maureen.
He didn't throw in the water, in the garbage disposal, nothing.
And I didn't like the reporter's horrible words she said. She says, "You fool, you brainless, stupid woman," stuff. I don't like those words she said.
Well, if she was a bit more smarter, she might not have been dead.
But then again, I don't blame Maureen for this. So anyway, she encounters Norman wearing the wig and the dress of sorts.
And quickly she starts telling Norman that Emma Spool is not his real mum, and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
It's shooting off all his facts at him.
Yeah, and she reveals these facts. Norma's mum in his head says it's all lies, all that stuff.
And then Norman starts to gradually take his mother's clothes off. Not her clothes, the clothes that he was wearing.
Yeah,
and the crappy wig and the
and
clothes.
takes off the wig. Like he's starting to become back to normal again. I mean, back to being Norman again.
Yeah.
So
then.
So as he was struggling with the knife with the report,
the Vicky or Tracy, what her name is,
the reporter, she suddenly starts attacking and cutting up his remains of his already dead corpse mother.
It's a good shot. He raises his carving knife. You think he's going to get this newspaper lady, and he strikes down, and he's actually stabbing his mummified stepmother, whatever, auntie, whatever, Mrs. Spool's corpse, and starts cutting her up in little pieces.
Yeah, and all the time,
Yeah.
Mrs. His mother's voice suddenly morphs and acts
and goes slow down,
like
a recording going slow. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like she's dying.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yes. Interesting.
Yeah. So Norman collapsed on the ground, like panting really hard. Now knowing that what he's just been through, he's finally free of his mum, or we think she is.
Ish.
So the next day, or maybe not next day, I'm not sure. The sheriff arrives with his deputies, the sorts, and they escort Norman back into a
The sheriff's a bit annoyed.
Card.
I was always backing you, Norman.
Yeah.
And
It seems that the sheriff thought that thanks to Norman's behaviour,
he said, "No, you'll never get out this time, son."
Yes.
But he did.
Yeah, and at the scene, Norman says, "Now I'll be free."
Yeah, he said in the car, a nice benign smile on his face. Yeah, but I'll be free, or I'm free, or something.
Yeah, this is another interesting thing about this scene. In this final scene, the Universal asked Anthony, "Could you do us a final twist in this movie?" And so he had to go back and reshoot that final scene where he's in the police car and he's stroking the very old hand of his Emma Spool's hand.
Yeah, well, actually, here's one part. Yeah, I'll just take it back a couple of seconds. When he was coming to the car, he was handcuffed. And possibly somewhere in his jacket, inside pocket, somewhere or other, he had the severed hand of Emma Spool. He must have taken it as a bit of a trophy.
Okay.
And no one knows he's got it on him. You think they would have patted him down, but he gets in the car, like Sarah said, and he's sitting down there, I'm free, and then the camera turns on him, and he gets his hand out of his jacket slowly, puts it on his lap, and starts stroking it.
Yeah.
And then that creepy smile he had in the first movie came back.
First Psycho movie smile.
Like, yeah, I'm cracked. and mother's still alive and well. You know?
Yes.
Yeah. So and that was the ending. Well, that was great. I love
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
cool.
Thanks to Anthony for making that good twist.
Yeah. If Anthony was alive today and be able to hear this podcast, I'd say, well done. You captured a demented idiot so well.
Don't
And
say
it's
that.
so believable.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all the finished all the movie.
That's all, folks. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the end.
quite
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty much an awesome movie, and those who are out there who keep saying it's not, it is.
Now, it's getting back into nuts and bolts of it, sort of, behind the scenes and stuff. Now, this was made on a budget of about 8.4 million. They boxed off at about 14 million. Is deemed to be a bit of a failure in the franchise.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was the lowest grossing movie. Now, the point remains is not every movie is going to be good. And some of the critics have actually said that they'll believe that something like this, they're trying to breathe life into a corpse. They're trying to make more money out of the movies, the storyline.
Yeah.
And look, I don't mind sequels as long as they're good and they hold their own. I think this actually holds its own as a movie.
I agree.
It probably isn't as good as the first or second movie, but it's still a good movie. Now, having said that, didn't Robert Bloch do a Psycho 3 book as well? I believe so.
Yeah.
And this is nothing along the lines of Psycho 3 book. The first book, Psycho, was used as the basis for Psycho 1 movie, but the number 2 and number 3 have nothing to do with Robert Bloch's interpretation of the storyline.
Yeah, as I said in the
how's that?
past.
Okay.
Yeah, and the final of the fourth movie we're going to mention, they were going to invite Anthony back to do the final one, but to direct it, but they, in the end, I think Joseph Stefano stepped in to become the director for this final movie.
We like Joseph, he's good.
Yeah, he was the screenwriter for the first Psycho movie.
He was, yeah.
So it's all in the
Lots of
family.
other good groovy things.
It's all in the family in this movie franchise, which is great.
But anyway, having said all that,
Having said all that,
yeah, it didn't gross as well as the other ones. I still think it's a great movie. Well done, Anthony, for his first directorial efforts. Yeah.
yeah.
And
It's interesting that it's even more interesting that along the lines while this production was going, Anthony kind of was diagnosed HIV positive when he went through this film process.
Okay, poor fella.
Yes, but at least he got through these last few years to finish both movies.
Well, he did those movies, and he did the next movie, and he did that Daughter of Darkness movie, and other good groovy things. He didn't just drop off the planet, so yeah.
Yeah, it's good to know that he puts in time too.
He did, yeah, he did good. So yeah, poor old Norman. He's not quite dead yet. There's a fourth movie,
Yeah,
which we'll
and
review
not to
later.
mention that TV series I told you about. The one I told you about, the modern version of
Not the Freddie
Bates
Highmore
Motel.
one.
No, not that one.
Not that one, yeah.
The other
The
Bates Motel
yeah.
TV movie they did years ago. It was going to be a movie, but
it was a pilot, wasn't it?
it was a pilot movie for a most likely TV series, but it didn't
It was a bit
go
lame.
off the ground.
Yeah.
So it just turned to just an ordinary TV movie for
Yeah.
you guys
It
out
wasn't
there.
bad, but it was lacking.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
And that was sort of a second sequel to Psycho 3.
Yeah.
Because this came just after Psycho 3. So it kind of fits in with it because Norman goes back to the Psycho ward
supposedly never to be let out again.
and never let out again,
Yeah.
supposedly.
Well,
And
that was going to be the storyline. Yeah,
Yeah.
and this guy he willed it to this other guy he knew in a nut house to take over,
so
and he
it
was just
kind
as weird as Norman.
yeah, so it kind of fits in that story a little bit, even if it didn't pick up for a TV series. So, but much later on, they made another Bates Motel movie, that TV show that kind of got off the ground eventually, much later on. with a different weird guy to portray Norman Bates. But I won't get into that just yet.
Yeah.
Yes, so anyway, how do you rate this movie, or do you want to get into rating just yet?
I don't have much more to say on this one. I mean, we've gone through it. We said all the interesting stuff. There's nothing special about any special effects or anything else. It's the same scenery, the same buildings, and
Yeah,
whatever.
incidentally, some of the
Yeah.
props for the from
me.
the Psychos 2 and 3, some of the was restored and replaced in the actual movie, and and one of the props was stolen.
Yeah, people do that.
Yeah, as a
trophies.
trophy or
Anyway,
whatever.
like, it's a hard one to pull this one because there's so many things I like about it. But I don't think it's as good as number 2. So yeah, everything else came together. Bearing in mind it was Perkins's first directorial efforts, I have to give it a 9. What do you reckon?
I give it let me think. I think I give it a 10
Ooh.
out of 10 because
He's
I
very generous.
did like the that special filming technique Anthony put into this movie.
The morphing or
Yeah,
transitions and
the
stuff.
transition. I mean, like, not many people do that. I mean, some people do it nowadays, but
Someone just do a
and
cut
do it-
or a fade to fade, cross fades or whatever.
Yeah.
But he did morphing, but it worked.
yeah, in the right type of hands, it's a useful film tool.
Yeah.
To the wrong kind of hands, it's a recipe for disaster. But other
And
than that, Anthony did in
And there was
good
a good use
perspective.
of, there was a good use of light in there, wasn't he? Using filters and stuff to create moods, like in Duke's bedroom or
Yeah,
apartment.
red.
He had a red glow, representing evil and stuff and different
Yes.
things. Yeah, just little things, just
Yeah.
the mood. So yeah, he's creative. He did well. But yeah, I still have to give it a 9 because I mean, it just didn't. It didn't give me the chills and that I got out of the first 2 movies.
Yeah, well.
Well, no, it's supposed to be a slasher. Yeah, horrible. Yeah, but I
Well,
don't
it's just that
Yeah.
we now know who the identity of the murderer is, and we don't. And the
Well, that's probably it, and that's why I said the critics said
And-
they're trying to breathe life into a corpse here, and I think that was where the problem is. They're running out of ideas.
yeah, and not to mention
Yeah.
there was. I mean, apart from the what Duke does in this movie, which kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, a bit
and
surprising.
not too many movies do surprise me anymore these days.
Yeah. But see, the whole point. Look, we've seen Mother's Corpse
Yes.
in Psycho 1, that sort of thing. We saw a corpse being disinterred at the graveyard. So seeing another mummified body of Mrs. Spool there was no shock horror, and she didn't look all that bad anyway. Just little things. So there wasn't too many either jump scares or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. Well,
It
when you
didn't have those sort of things happening in this movie.
well, it's just like when you know. It's like you know the identity of the murderer already, so
Yeah, it's sort
there's no reason to know if there's any other person in the
Is there
in the
anything
movie.
different going to happen? Oh no, it's same old. Yeah, it's predictable, and I think that's why it's a bit lame because nothing was new.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the critics didn't like it. They said it was trying to breathe life into it. Give the last rites. And they say that's why they made Psycho 4. It was retrospective, showing what happened with Norman before he killed his mother. So that would have been a good Psycho 3, and possibly leave this movie out. But this still isn't a bad movie.
So anyway, that's all there is for us today for this podcast.
Yeah.
So this is Sarah Stephenson saying.
Yeah, this is Mike saying goodbye.
Bye, guys.